The event here is the first one in the series of events, and we all have a bit different program, at least the part of local reference customers is different. So we decided together that we tried to outline a little bit our customer stories from Estonia. And the stories are those we want and we like to tell and remember. So my story, and I promise I'll be short, is how Fotogrametrija, which is discussed today and seems to be very attractive technology, is used by surveyors of open mines. And it comes from the company we are working together, which is our long-time Bentley customer, and now is running that pilot project with us, is Inseneribüroo STEIGER. STEIGER is probably for sure is the biggest consultancy in Estonia focusing or concentrating on mining industry. They have 30 plus people with higher education from different technical areas, many of them from mining. And what they do is not only surveying, they have the different departments like geology, like site engineering, like environmental research, and of course department of mine surveyors. They use and we use a word, markshader. Does it tell you anything? Is it? I think it was originated from Russian, but not sure. Markshader is the surveyor who is specializing on open mines. So recently they decided to buy an unmanned airborne vehicle, a drone, and the choice was made after certain consideration. They bought a relatively, let's say, relatively cheap one, not exactly the consumer-grade machine, but the machine only equipped with camera. Because although they first wanted to have a LiDAR-equipped very expensive machine, they finally decided that somebody told them that this is not a question if it will fall to the ground or not, the question is when it will happen. So they are considering certain learning path. And the second thing was that to choose between the winged design and the helicopter type of design. And because of the nature of the job, they decided to go for the helicopter style, because in that way they can fly on lower heights, get maybe better, more detailed photos, but the trade-off is that they cannot cover maybe so big areas. Now, the second step was to find a software which would allow them to fulfill two tasks. The first was to get a detailed overview of the survey site. The site can be something like that one. Although they measure by using conventional surveyors apparatus like Trimble GPS, differential GPS and Topcon tachometer, still they need to understand the situation, because people who do the work on field and people who make finally the models and calculations may be different people. And there can be a time period between field operations and data processing later. So the context of the situation really benefits. Secondly, they wanted to get a rapid process of creating volume information out from the piles, because in open mines they stock the material no matter what it is. It can be sand, it can be gravel, it can be English word was peat or torf in Russian, which is actually quite a topic in Estonia. And it turns out that in that way, photogrammetry can sometimes give even better, more precise result, because it considers all the hills and all the holes which you cannot measure by your GPS. So they made lot of comparisons and lot of tests. First, they made comparisons between different software solutions. As I know, 4DPix was one of those, and Agisoft was another one. And they reached a conclusion very soon that Bentley's context capture gives far more accurate and better model than any of those I mentioned earlier. And the second type of study or learning curve has to do with the skills and process, how to get data, how to get photos, and precise model. So they compared the results they get from measurements made by tachymeter and GPS and results they get from context capture. And for my surprise, the match was almost idealistic, that sometimes, if there were no mistakes. But you had to be very careful, as they said, because if you don't consider all the aspects, like weather, then mistakes can come. And because the drone they are using was, so to say, consumer grade, it has GPS, but the GPS is not the differential, it's not so precise. They had to do marks on the ground, big crosses, which allows later to define the tie points and get the geolocation and more important, the right not evaluation but elevation information. So that's in short what has been done during summer, few months. And I can show you some pictures from open mines. This is a dolomite mine in Estonia, and if it's still open, maybe it is. I will show you the models. I put the models into our server and show you what it looks like as a model. This is one of the mining sites, and here is another one which looks nicer because the sun is shining and the shadows are longer. It's obviously an evening, but from engineering point of view it's not very good because sun and shadows that are changing can cause problematic situations. So this is my little story from our customer, Inseneribüroo STEIGER, mining consultancy, and their attempt to implement photogrammetry in their everyday work as a complementary technology to conventional measuring devices, technologies. Thank you very much.